Hi, and welcome back to ManaTutor MTG Draft. Today we're going to be discussing how this first week has gone in our play for Wilds of Eldraine drafting. We're going to be going over a little bit of how to be drafting the multicolored good stuff decks, because they are quite good. We'll start off by going through a draft that 7 and 0'd, and we'll be going through the details of that. But before we get into the formal analysis of the drafts, just want to ask Matt, how has your week of play been?
It's been good overall. Haven't trophied yet, like you have, but I've done pretty good. I'm currently playing a red-white kind of celebration-y deck. It's currently 3-1, so we'll see. Maybe this will be the one that trophies. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm not actually too happy with the deck, but so far it's doing okay. And a couple others I've done. I've done green-white. I've done blue-black. I've done green-black. They've all done okay. I don't think I've gone less than 3-3, but so that's pretty good. Obviously, hope to be doing a little bit better here soon, but I'm interested to dig into the multicolored good stuff because I haven't really done that yet. So.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty wide open right now, which is kind of why I want to talk about it this right now while people have time to still draft this. I imagine it'll stay a thing for many weeks to come, but it just seems so open. Especially I tend to be green-white. I do find that white is open and complements it well, especially because the good stuff comes, are later, tends to be a little more expensive, whereas the white cards that I draft tend to be your cheaper things to get on board, stabilize, and then let your good stuff take over. But I do think it could happen, and definitely in any green deck. Green just supports so much ability to splash.
Yeah.
And I have even done a couple of splashes, even in my black-red. That deck won 5 games, which is lower than a lot of my other decks, so I don't know that it was actually the right to splash in those. I don't think every deck needs to splash, but I do think that a lot of people are used to playing 2 colors, get in that lane, and don't know how and when to be considering splashes. But to the contrary, I think when people start trying to do it, they might try to do it too much. And there's
it's a very fine line to walk.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like you have to be careful about it, and you have to be able to support it. And I think your draft is going to be an excellent example of that because you can see kind of all the different supports you have in it to allow you to cast the spells of the other colors, right, in terms of the multicolored land, the non-basic lands, things like that. So anyways, yeah, I think it'll be good to dig into, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Before we actually dig right into that, I do want to check on our Candy Grapple versus
Yeah. I looked at it earlier today, and I'm pleased to say that Candy Grapple, Hopeless Nightmare is working its way up. It's still not quite past Candy Grapple. Currently on 17 lands, Candy Grapple has a 60% game in hand win rate, and Hopeless Nightmare is very close behind at 59.3%. So
you're rising. You're getting closer.
5 days in, it's moving on its way up. I still think it's got some headroom to grow. I'm not sure that Candy Grapple is going to go much above 60%. That's pretty high for a common. So I mean, if it does, great. But 60% win rate is pretty high. So, anyways, we'll see. We've got 2.25 weeks or something left to see in when we're into week 3. But
I still feel pretty comfortable in theory, even though I'm somewhat rooting against myself. I would like Hopeless Nightmare to overtake Candy Grapple, but you are right that I think Hopeless Nightmare will get better as people learn more about the set and as it develops, and given we have a little over another 2 weeks to go, if it starts inching in closer to Candy Grapple, it's definitely possible.
I also think it'll get better as people are kind of forced to take it more, right? Like right now, the set's kind of wide open, right? I'm seeing even Candy Grapples on like 5th, 6th pick, and I'm like, what's going on here? Hamlet Glutton, wheeling a Hamlet Glutton because I took something for pack 1, pick 1 that was different, and I see it on my 9th pick, and I'm like, wow, no one took that around the table. So, I think as people kind of start, getting into things a little bit more closely and really kind of understanding where the power lies,
Yeah.
we'll have to see. That said, Hamlet Glutton, top green common now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah, that was our pick. I think both of ours for top green common, so we got it right. And if you haven't checked out, we basically did an episode. If I were to summarize, it's Hamlet Glutton runs the format. Our last episode, check that out. If I remember, I'll link to that video up above here. You should see a link. So check that out. It was a good episode to help prep you for the format, and it'll also lead well into discussing this one as well,
yeah.
because we're going to basically be discussing green. We're going to be talking about Hamlet Glutton decks, and in green, in Hamlet Glutton decks, I do think you want to splash a lot of the time. So we'll be going over that. All right, maybe that kicks us off well into going over that draft?
Yep, that sounds like a plan. Let's dig in.
All right, so this draft is undefeated, so went 7-0. I did a pack 1 pick 1 of Pollen Shield Hair. It's a rare 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature tokens you control get +1/+1, and it has a nice cheap adventure for 1 green. Target creature you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. It's just very efficient. It's nice to be able to crack that 1 to give something +X/+X and attack through, and the vigilance also comes up as being beneficial a lot. And besides that, at itself, it's a 2-mana 2/2. I do think I've heard differing opinions about how powerful this is. Some people say there's not enough creature tokens obviously there's rat tokens, but so maybe white-black, this card would be decent. But honestly, even like white-green, there's enough tokens around. Like I'm picking the Welcome to Sweet Tooth makes a 1/1 when it comes on into play. That's one of the top uncommons.
Return from the Wilds.
Return from the Wilds makes your 1/1. These are all cards you want to be taking. The Vigil, the Hopeful Vigil, enchantment, making a 2/2, turning those into 3/3s. There's a good amount, and so having a Lord for your tokens on just a 2-mana 2/2 is pretty powerful.
Yeah, no, I think, and looking at the rest of the pack, right? Like, you could make a case for a couple of other cards, maybe, but honestly, not a lot. Maybe Raid Bombardment, just on the, but if you take Raid Bombardment, you're basically committing yourself to rats.
Right.
And so, Hopeless Nightmare, not bad, but I probably wouldn't pick pack 1, pick 1.
Yeah.
And then, the others, I don't know. Edgewall Inn's not terrible if you just want to keep yourself open early.
Right.
But, nothing screams, right? Nothing screams take this. So,
right.
No, I think it was a great choice, and it plays well to your preferred colors. So.
Right. Yeah, I was definitely drafting with preferences during this too, but Raid Bombardment has had actually pretty low stats. Now, I don't know if people are trying to do that outside the rat deck too. The one that has is Goblin Bombardment's been very high. So that's like sacrifice a creature, it deals 1 damage. And that makes sense. So, yeah. I guess my next pick would probably be Edgewall Inn, just for exactly what you said, keeping you open and enabling the splashes. I don't necessarily take these lands that high otherwise, but probably above most other things here. Hopeless Nightmare is definitely in conversation. Curse of the Werefox, I think, is in conversation. But yeah, I would do Edgewall Inn next. Probably followed by Hopeless Nightmare, then Curse of the Werefox. Although I do really like green, so like I might just do Curse of the Werefox over the Hopeless, but in hope to lower your win rate and not playing Hopeless Nightmare, because I don't want to make myself lose.
Sure.
Joke. But anyway, so that's pack 1, pick 1.
Yeah.
Pick 2 goes really well with pick 1. Welcome to Sweet Tooth. 1 and a green, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Chapter 2, create a food token. Chapter 3, put X +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of foods you control. Just a really efficient card.
Yep. No, it does a lot for 2 mana. I think it's great. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that really competes with it in this pack.
Witch's Vanity is quite good too.
It is, but I'm not sure in this case that I would consider it that. Like, I think it's comparable to Welcome to Sweet Tooth, but Welcome to Sweet Tooth is in your colors and helps your deck, right?
Right.
I don't know that
it fits better, and I actually like Welcome to Sweet Tooth better. I'm not sure on the stats which one is better between these, but it was just another call out. Like, that's another powerful card. Otherwise, no. There's no other green card I would consider in this pack. And really,
well, there's Curse of the Werefox, which you end up taking on the wheel, but
but I wouldn't take that over Welcome to Sweet Tooth. Would be my point, right?
Sure. No, not over.
But I like it, and I'm hoping it wheels. Yes. So, I guess we can move on to pick 3. What do you? Well, so Imodane's Recruiter. Have you been checking any of the stats on this? And have you played with this card yet?
It's in my. I have it in my white red. So and I like it. It's a good card.
Have you won any games with this?
Yes, actually, I have won it. Like playing it, getting the 2/2/2s, and then next turn playing Imodane or Imodane's Recruiter, right? And giving them all +1/+0 and haste, and he has haste as well. So. You're swinging with 3/3/2s at that point. It's not bad. And
it's actually
plus whatever else you have on the board, right?
Yeah.
So
it's the top uncommon on the set right now on stats. Yeah. And because it just gives you a good amount of value, but especially like you can get up to the games like we said last time go a little longer. It's not extremely fast, so you can get up to 8 mana, and then when you can play both these together, that's a lot of damage swinging in out of nowhere. I mean, this card alone has won me games in the past that I would not have otherwise won by...
Yeah.
So
it's really good.
I take this... really, my goal is to play this in a white deck to get the 2/2s and then splash red so that I can, play
him.
Yeah. Otherwise, I've seen people play a lot of Knight of the Sweet's Revenge. I don't really like this card that much.
I'm not sure it helps if in this situation, but I can see it, right? Like, basically turning all your foods into lands is not bad. But it's expensive for what it does, right? Like, it's 4 mana. The sacrifice is nice, right? Like, the sacrifice is giving everything +X/+X, where X is foods, right? But you can only activate it as a sorcery. B, it costs 7, right? Although you can use your foods to pay for it, which is nuts. I mean, it's I don't know. It doesn't give them trample, which kind of would be, if everything got trample from their sugar rush, foods, right?
Yeah, this is no overrun. If this was an overrun, I can definitely see this being much better.
Yeah, but. Anyways, I mean, I think Imodane's Recruiter definitely a good pick here.
Yep. I mean, there's a Celebrant that I wouldn't mind wheeling. Return from the Wild, same story.
Sure.
Beanstalk Worm's okay. So you can kind of tell I'm picking the multicolor cards early. And then it looks like green is probably open because Graceful Takedown's a great card. So the fact that I get that 4th pick is a good sign. Nothing else in here to really consider. I mean, compared to the power of that. I do like we mentioned, Curse of the Werefox. I like Prophetic Prism quite a bit too in order to cast all my multicolored stuff. Return Triumphant, I actually have yet to play, but I've seen good things out of this card. So
I won a game with it today.
Yeah.
Playing red-white, I played Ash Party Crasher, right? And my opponent killed it, right? And then next turn, I returned Triumphant it, and because it comes with a Young Hero roll token, it automatically triggered its own celebration, and then it attacked, and it gets the Young Hero +1/+1, and then another +1/+1, so it was swinging for 4 right off the bat.
That's sick.
That was, that was more of a luck of circumstance than anything. But it's interesting to see like that thing. It can do good things, right? Particularly in a celebration deck, something like that. But
Makes sense.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a good card, and I think I have one copy of it in that deck. But I probably wouldn't have said no to another one.
Yep.
Because I have a lot of 3 or less costers.
Yeah, I think this is. It's probably good in a lot of white decks, but it is pretty great, I think, in the red white celebration deck. So I kind of read this as a bit of a red white gold card.
Yes. Yeah.
So we take the graceful takedown. Here's an interesting one, because you'll see in green cards, which I'm kind of trying to narrow myself into and cut off from the person to my left. Storm-Killed Vanguard, I did not take. My thing is, I like Hamlet Glutton so much better. This does destroy a lot of artifacts and enchantments that you do want to destroy, but I'm kind of waiting for Hamlet Glutton, and when I'm going to fill up my top end with Hamlet Gluttons, or I pretty much know I am if I'm going to be in green, I want cheap things, right? I need to get all the cheap things I can in, especially cheap things that can make a token to enable my Hamlet Glutton. So with that, Hollow Scavenger, it also just has better stats.
Sure.
But that's why I took this one.
Well, I mean, also, Hollow Scavenger is the second best green common currently. And it's currently actually just tied with Hamlet Glutton in terms of win rate. They're both 58.3%. So, yeah, I mean, again, this is pick 5, and that's still in the pack, which is interesting, right? But yeah, I agree with that pick. I mean, there are other... Ariet's Whisper, I think, is pretty good, and I think it's actually somewhat underrated. Ariet's Whisper, to me, is the Torment of Golem of this set that I think is going to get significantly better as people start using it. Like, and Torment of Golem just became that way, right? Like, basically forcing someone on turn 4 to picking a card and discarding it from their hand is great. This, you don't get to pick it, but they have to discard 2. And you get a Wicked roll for 4 mana, so that's, to me, that's a lot of value. But you're not in black right now, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. But I just wanted to highlight that, is because that and Hopeless Nightmare, I think, are kind of still slept on as cards. And I can see there's a role here for a black just forcing your opponent to discard their entire hand deck, right? And they just don't get to play anything because you just keep forcing them to discard shit, one way or another. So
my issue is, whereas Torment of Golem gave you board presence, like yes, this makes the Wicked token, so it's a bit of board presence in that aspect, but I really want my cards like this to actually make their own creature. So I don't have to have another creature out, and I just want a number of creatures on the battlefield type of thing. So,
Torment
of Golem did that better.
Maybe, but imagine it's turn 4, and you've got 2 or 3 cards in your hand, and somebody plays this against you, and the 2 or 3 cards you're holding is probably your Hamlet Glutton, and like a couple of other things that you haven't played yet. So, like, timing this right, this can absolutely decimate someone's hand. And so I think that, to me, is the value of it, right? And yeah, you're right, it doesn't get you board presence, but I do like the card, so I just wanted to call it out a little bit.
Yep, okay. So we take the Hollow Scavenger. Now, so I've seen people play 3 Bowls of Porridge, and it's okay. I'm curious what the stats say on it, but I don't
love it.
I don't either. It just seems expensive for what you're doing. You have to invest a lot of mana, and like we said before,
it's 8 mana to deal 2 damage, tap a creature, and gain 3 life, and it's
Yep.
I don't know about that.
Yep. I do like Armory Mice. Again, in these multicolored decks, you want to have cheap things to interact early to get you to survive to the late game, and I guess as people start taking Flick a Coin and Rat Out and things like that sooner, this might get worse. But so far, X1s have not been punished very much. So that one I like. We said Prophetic Prism, but knowing I'm going to prioritize Hamlet Gluttons highly if I'm in green, Return for the Wilds is just a good card.
Yeah, it's really good.
Here, I didn't really have a pick I wanted, to be honest. Maybe this is me drafting with preferences. I probably actually should have picked Grabby Giant as just the best card in the pack here. Candy Trail, I don't really love a lot. It's not horrible. People put this as a early play one to scry to whatever you need. But I have yet to play one. I just usually don't find room for that kind of thing. But this is me wanting to go into white and saying, okay, so I don't have any Hamlet Gluttons yet. What if I'm being cut off from them? I might need some top end to finish off the game. That's all.
And Charmed Clothier it's fine. Like, I don't think it's super great, right? Because you are, I mean, you're essentially paying 5 for a 4/4 flyer.
Right.
I mean, although you're not getting all of that on the 4/4 flyer or on the flyer. So
I ended up cutting this, but
it's not terrible. Yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly better than the Territorial Witch Stalker, which I generally think is not a good card.
Yeah.
I mean, at best, you're paying 2 for a 3/3, right? And it's great if you have Hamlet Glutton out, sure, okay, then yeah, you're getting a 3/3 for 2, but that's a best case scenario. So
yeah, I think this is more like if you know you're going to be defensive, like, yes, I've been saying, like, the multicolor decks, like, you do want to compete early so that later in the game you survive till then because you should be able to take over. But I still play things early to compete on getting them down in life, right? Like, I'm still trying to play aggressive with my cards. So I'm not playing Territorial Witch Stalker in this deck typically. Moving on in to the pick 8. So on the wheel here, or not quite yet, but going into the wheel next, we have Royal Treatment's the best card in the pack. Curiosity can be quite good in the right blue decks, but I'm pretty far away from that, and I'm drafting with preferences quite heavily away from blue. I'll take any of the other colors, but
yeah, I would be interested to see a green-blue where you put Curiosity on a Hamlet Glutton.
I mean, that's
fine.
Yeah,
so, it could be pretty good. But at that point, it's really win more, right? Like, if you've got the Hamlet Glutton out and you're dealing damage to the opponent, it means they don't have enough blockers to kill it.
Yeah, it's such a target at that point. Like, anything that can disrupt your Hamlet Glutton hurts you so bad.
Well, that's why you have Royal Treatment, right?
Exactly. So I'll get this later on, and Royal Treatment. I mean, it's a pretty high performing card. It's not a blow away, but it does a lot for 1 mana.
I mean, giving something hexproof for 1 mana at instant speed obviously is great, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's going to save you from whatever they can use to target your Hamlet Glutton, right?
Right. Okay, now on the wheel. So this has kind of been the pattern of, like, pick up the good multicolored cards early, fill in where you can, and where you can't fill in, like, there's no card in here that I really care about playing. I could have picked Hopeless Nightmare and considered staying open to black. That would not have been a horrible route. Johann Stopgap, that's pretty late for that, but again, so far I'm kind of avoiding blue. So when I don't have a great pick, I just pick up whatever I can to enable splashes, right? So
I'm kind of curious what you think about Scarecrow Guy, right? In the situation,
I've played it. I've liked it. It does both the what we mentioned, get on board early, and then gives you an option to be able to splash. I don't like that it's a vulnerable option to splash. But if you need a 2-drop badly enough too, and you're interested in splashing, I think it fills a role. Yeah, but I'd rather take the Evolving Wild, even though I'm actually not a huge fan of Evolving Wilds.
I don't love it as a card because it doesn't really replace a land necessarily. I mean, it does in some senses, but it doesn't fully, right? So you kind of have to count it as like half a land for your land purposes, kind of, depending on your deck.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I still do like replace them with lands one for one, but I think like the real reason I don't love this card as much is it doesn't enable multiple splashes. You have to choose what color
Yes.
land you want,
Yes.
and
That's
you have to put those colors in your deck.
Yes, you have to put the basic land of those in your deck,
And
which
I really
you may
don't
not
want to.
do. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why why I was curious why you picked it over the Scarecrow Guide, which doesn't make you put that in, right?
Yeah,
But
I don't.
I can understand.
Maybe Scarecrow Guide is just actually the right pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a lot of 2 cost already, so I can understand it, right? It's still early, so it's not a bad. I think it's a toss up, right? I could see taking either.
Yeah. Up next, pick 10. I got a Curse of the Werefox on the wheel. It was an easy
It's
pick.
an easy pick. Yeah.
Here, I just go with Leaping Ambush. These type of 1-mana tricks tend to be decent. For a pick 11, I'm happy to pick that up. I may play it, I may
It's
not.
the number 3 green common.
Yep. I get another Evolving Wilds, pick 12. I get a Hopeless Nightmare, pick 13.
Yeah, again, pick 13, Hopeless Nightmare. I don't understand. Who's not taking that 12 times before, right? Right. I don't know. I think that's going to change.
Yeah, it's early in the set and people just don't know. Combined with so some of your other picks that you mentioned of like how is this going pick 5 or whatever. I do think a lot of it is there are just a lot of powerful cards in the set that people might be picking up other great ones.
Yeah.
But pick 13, there's no excuse, or up to that, no excuse for that. Like people either got pigeonholed into certain colors, or they probably just don't value this Hopeless Nightmare, and they're wrong, I think. Yeah. And Johann Stopgap. That's interesting too. Like that's one of the best blue commons. I get not wanting to play blue though, so maybe that suffers from that. But pack 2, I opened up a bomb. So I will say I didn't win any games off this other than one game, and I might not have needed it to win. The bomb is not what made this go 7-0, but this is interesting. Like, we saw a decent amount of black before in pack 1. We have 0 black cards here, but I have enough fixing where I'll be happy to move into black, or even honestly could splash this. It's such a big bomb, Virtue of Persistence, that I'm taking it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure anything else really screams.
I would love a Utopia Sprawl.
Oh yeah, Utopia Sprawl. That's true. Yeah,
but that's it.
I missed that, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, given the splashing, like, yeah, Utopia Sprawl may have been up there, but I can see taking the Virtue, right? Like, if you're thinking like this is a bomb that could win me games. Yeah. Yeah.
For those that don't know, so it's on the adventure side. It's basically sort of a somewhat worse Candy Grapple. Yeah, it's a sorcery. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn for 1 to black, and you gain 2 life. And that's just decent in itself, but really you want to eventually get to the 5 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and so that could be your graveyard or your opponent's graveyard. And that just runs away with the game.
Anything with good ETB effects, like Hamlet Glutton, right? You can gain more life, things like that. So, it's the kind of thing that can keep you in the game, even if you're like that can bring you back from the brink and basically make you unstoppable. And again, you can freely sacrifice that creature as a blocker and get it back every turn, right? So, because it doesn't exile it when it dies again. So
exactly. It just continuously, like I said, there's one game where that did go off, and it's inevitability. Like, it's really hard to beat. You have to have enchantment removal.
Yeah. Which I still don't see a lot of. Amazing.
There's not.
It's in the set, but I don't see a lot of people playing, right?
I would say there's not even, like, a ton, right? Like, so yes, you have the white common one, which people aren't playing yet and should be.
Yeah.
But then there's the green one for 2 and a green, which is main deckable, but still not a great card because it's still somewhat inefficient.
Well, and then there's the uncommon that creature that it destroys artifact or enchantment. It was in the last pack, right? They passed on.
And we already said that was. It's not a bad card. It's just
Sure. No, it's a good card.
not premium. Like, yeah. I'm not taking extremely highly, but it would have been my next pick in that pack if the scavenger thing, hollow scavenger, wasn't there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, but aside from Virtue of Persistence and Utopia Sprawl, there's not much in this. I mean, Red Tooth Genealogist isn't terrible. The Royal Roll is nice.
Yeah,
right?
I like Red Tooth Genealogist, yeah. It just wouldn't compete with the other two. Yep. So moving on to pick 2, we got another Welcome from Sweet Tooth. That's pretty easy here. Red Tooth Genealogist, like we said, would be fine too, but not over Welcome to Sweet Tooth. I don't mind picking up some of these lands, like the Restless Vinestock.
The Vinestock is not is it. I think it might be one of the better dual lands in this set, because it's a 5/5,
right,
with trample, right? So that's big, right? So later in the game that can be really big, but you have to have a second blue, right, in order to really make use of it. So
right, yep. So I think I just like Welcome to Sweet Tooth better. Like I'll pick my fixing after my really good cards, and I really like that Welcome to Sweet Tooth. But yeah, I just want to call that out. Pick 3, we get our Hamlet Glutton. So happy to secure that. There's a Root Rider Fawn, sure, but I'm taking the Hamlet Gluttons before I take the ramp.
yeah.
Other than maybe
Yeah,
Utopia Sprawl might be the one ramp I would consider taking above Hamlet Glutton, but honestly I'm getting late enough without Hamlet Gluttons where I just want to secure them for my green deck.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Armory Mice is okay.
And there's not much else in there.
Yeah.
In there too.
Exactly. Pick 4, we get another Imodane's Recruiter, so I just snapped that up. Although this pack's loaded for
yeah,
me.
I was gonna say there's a fair number of things in here that I would maybe consider, like Glass Casket's pretty good.
That would be my next pick. Yep. I'm not a huge fan of Gallant Pie Wielder. It's fine. I would probably take that one 4th and take Stockpiling Celebrant before Gallant Pie Wielder.
Yeah.
Unassuming Sage is fine when you need to secure a 2-drop, but I'm going to take the top performing uncommon in the set.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
Pick 5, there's not a whole lot except for the Hollow Scavenger. You know, I could have considered, I only have 2 white cards. I could have considered taking the Ruby and going into green-red. And I don't know what's right here. I really don't want to give up on my Pollen Shield Hair, which I like it a good amount, especially with all the Welcome for Sweet Tooths I have already. And the Imodane's
Recruiters, you could at least consider it, right? Like it's not necessarily, it wouldn't be a crazy choice, right?
Right.
But I do think Hollow Scavenger is still a good pick here, right? Because it is the second best green common currently, so
right. And with Imodane's Recruiter, I want to be playing white more than I want to be playing red anyway. So
and this just gives you like another turn 1 play, right, as well with the Bakery Raid. So yeah, I think that's a pretty safe pick.
Moving on to pick 6. Now here's where there's nothing in particular I love to take. Ginger Brute has done a decent job finishing off games. I liked the card a lot in my first couple of drafts. I still don't hate Ginger Brute. I just find I tend to be okay passing Ginger Brute up in favor of some other cards. That's really all I have to say. So I haven't been picking him highly anymore. If I do get him, I'll play him. But there is a Crystal Grotto in the pack, and I'll be taking Fixing to play all my multicolored stuff before I'll be taking Ginger Brute is my point. So I pick up the Crystal Grotto.
Yeah. Slumber and Keep Guard is not terrible.
Right.
But you have to have the enchantments to make it worth it. But it's not a bad 1-cost 1/1, right?
Agreed. Yeah,
any
that thing
means.
can finish off some games. You can activate it multiple times, and
Sure,
yeah,
yeah. Like activating that twice when you've got 3 enchantments out,
right.
7/7, right? You know.
I have seen some people try. They like that card so much they've drafted like 4 or 5 of them. They put them all in the
Oh
same
yeah,
deck.
I wouldn't play 4 or 5 of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point you can't pay for them all. So
Exactly.
you're just getting a bunch of 1/1.
Yep.
In that case, I would take Gingerbread
Right.
because it's better. Yeah.
So moving
Next.
on to
Hopeful
pick
Vigil.
pick 7. So yes, I have a few small plays, but I like more. So I kind of am choosing here between Hopeful Vigil and Brave the Wilds. And Hopeful Vigil is I'm pretty much always taking that over Brave the Wilds. So I do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a solid pick there, right? Can't really make too many cases for other things in the pack other than maybe Brave the Wild. So
Next pick 8, we get an Edgewall in. That's just the best card in the pack. So I take that.
Sure. Yeah, and it happens to help your deck pretty
Right.
well, right? Given that you already have a black card. It's in your sideboard right now, but we know you end up playing it, right? And
Right,
then you've
yeah.
got your recruiters as well. So
Yeah, 17 lands doesn't always pick perfect what the deck will be. It just guesses. Yeah, so Edgewall in, we secured that. We up next, I'm happy to take a Red Tooth Genealogist. I like this card a good amount, just off of efficiency and off of being able to help escalate Headwood Glutton plays off of the sacrificing the token. So yeah, pick up that. Probably not much to say there.
yeah, I don't think there's much else.
Probably in this whole pack. Like, next, Embereth Veteran is just the best card in the pack, so I pick it because, like, I don't think there's a chance I'm going down red unless I really get cut off a light at this point, but red would be my next color to go into, so I pick up the Embereth Veteran.
Yeah, and a 2/1 for 1 is good, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Overstated, so it's not a bad card.
And I sometimes when I get this late, I'm just happy to throw a young hero roll on something, or I've even used this before to trigger celebration, like, get into play, sacrifice it, get another thing into play for, yeah. I like that card. Pick 11, I just go with the cut-in. I think that's the best card here. Now, I've never played Toadstool Admirer, and I can never see myself playing it.
It's not a good card.
Yeah.
I don't know the point of it really. I mean, it's a 1/1 for 1 with War. Okay, that's fine. But the cost to put a +1/+1 counter on it, a 4, is too high, right?
Right.
Now there is a black-green creature that reduces the I think it's a legendary or a mythic that reduces the activation cost on creatures you control by its power, and it's a 1/1. But if you pump that first, then you could make this cost like 1 potentially to put a 1/1 counter on it, and then this is great. Like if you build around that black-green, and I think it's Ariette or something like that. Like I forget which creature it is, but anyways, that could be a good build around, right?
Right.
But
I don't love putting bad cards in my deck just to make synergy happen.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are better
Yeah.
things to pick, and I would pick other things before it. But I'm just trying to make the case.
No, that
for it.
makes sense.
It
Yeah.
is otherwise a terrible card, I think.
So I go with the cut-in just in case it's the best card there, in case I decide to go into red at some point. Now we just see a whole bunch of good cards. I think the best card still in this pack would be Stockpiling Celebrant. I do like it better than Hollow Scavenger for picking up whatever I would need to pick up
And
down
you've
the
already
line.
got 2 Hollow Scavengers, so, picking a Stockpiling Celebrant so that you can potentially, put the Hollow Scavenger back in your hand and get another food token, and then get the Hollow Scavenger again, right? Like, it makes sense with Adventure, right?
Yep. Then I just made a random pick in red, doesn't matter, followed by pick 14, which is marked because that's what I was given. So pack 3, we open up a few good things here. I mentioned on the podcast before, people letting Woodland Acolyte wheel, that's just, I don't know, that shouldn't really happen. So I'm
Yeah,
happy
and
to.
it's an instant pick
Yeah,
basically.
I'm happy to first pick it. I mean, Grasp of Fate is decent. It's just it doesn't go to the Woodland Acolyte level. Edgewell in, I'd be happy to take two, but I'm starting to be okay on fixing.
Yeah,
Yeah, Woodland Acolyte is an easy pick here.
yeah. Restless Cottage, I could make a case for. It's
Yeah.
not a bad card, but you only have that one black card at this point, and you're not even sure you're going to play it. So yeah, I mean, Woodland Acolyte, I think, is the obvious pick here.
Right.
Uh,
I will say I am sure at this point that I'm playing it. Like,
okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
but I just need to get the right fixing for things. And yes, I would definitely like. So that's an interesting one, right? Like, I probably would pick Restless Cottage over Edgewell in here,
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
but Woodland Acolyte is just too good.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the next pick, we see a great uncommon here in Gingerbread Hunter. It's in my color that I do know I'm going to play, right? I just got to get the support for it. And my support's decent. I got Crystal Grotto, Edgewell in Evolving Wilds, ×2 plus Return from the Wilds. So I have ways to play things. But yeah, so I'm just picking up Gingerbread Hunter as the most powerful card.
Yeah. No, and there's not much else in the set or in the pack here,
Right.
that you would want to pick before it, right?
Yeah, I think Crystal Grotto would probably be mine. Actually, Back for Seconds could
Yeah,
be interesting.
Back for Seconds is not bad.
And Crystal Grotto, but otherwise, no. So moving on to the next one. I do want to
Another
pick up a couple of Hamlet Gluttons, at least in my deck. I'm happy to play like 3.
Someone walked away from this with 2 Restless Cottages, though.
Yes.
But probably not much else, because they were clearly, whoever it was clearly passing on Hopeless Nightmares
Yep.
and didn't get the Hamlet Gluttons, because you took them.
Yep. So I take the Hamlet Glutton. Up next, still looking to beef the lower end, because, again, you want to make sure you do that so you don't get run over by rats, for instance. Up the Beanstalk can kind of be interesting, but I only have 3 cards that trigger that right now. Or actually, well, I'm going to cut the Charm Clothier. But yeah, so Hopeful Vigil is a pretty easy pick here.
Yeah, I could see a case for the Grabby Giant, but I think Hopeful Vigil's the better pick.
Yeah, I pretty much
Already in your
solidified.
color.
I solidified myself into white when I picked the Woodland Acolyte in the first pick on pack 3, but
Yep.
Yep. Up next, there wasn't like a ton, but like I do mention, I do like Kellen's Lightblades a good amount, so went ahead and picked that one. I was happy to have it.
Yeah, good. It's decent removal. I think you could also make a case for the Titanic Growth with the Hamlet Gluttons. I think I don't love Titanic Growth necessarily, but when you have Hamlet Glutton, it makes sense because of the trample, and so I do think that it goes up in my estimation if I'm playing like 2 or 3 Hamlet Gluttons.
Agreed. I think Titanic Growth, if you check the stats of like how late things are picked versus how much they win, Titanic Growth is probably like the last picked, actually pretty high winning card in green.
Yeah.
So it's definitely undervalued. I don't know. Maybe that is a better pick than Kelvin's Lightblades. I'm with you on having a thing.
Lightblades is good because you don't have a lot of removal in this as it is, and so this is good removal to get, especially later on.
Right. Troublemaker Oof would not be a bad thing to consider either.
Sure. That would be the other one I was thinking of too, because the ability to remove an artifact or enchantment with it is pretty good.
Yeah, to be honest, it might like I'm waffling here. Like I think that might actually be the right pick. I just love having ways to deal with big creatures, and so I feel a safe, cozy side when I have a Kellen's Lightblades. But I do want to pick up even some more 2s here. Although I do now have 2 Hopeful Vigils with the 2 Welcomes or Sweet Tooths and a Pollen Shield Hair. So yeah, I don't know. That one's close. Pick 6, best card in the pack, Agatha's Champion. Happy to take it. There is a Return from the Wilds here, which would be my next pick. There's a Crystal Grotto here, which would be my third pick. Break the Spell would not be upset to play, but it's just Agatha's Champion is pretty powerful, so I go with that. Pick 7. Don't see a whole lot now. So the Tempest Heart.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tempest Heart could have been an interesting one.
Yeah, I haven't loved this card. I've only drafted it once and decided not to play it. It is efficient. It's just you gotta play. The order that you have things matters, and you have to get things down with 5 or more, of which I'm playing 4 right now, mana. Yeah, I don't love necessarily like the draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, but it is only 2 mana. I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating this one. I'd be curious to see what the stats say here.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was drawn to it because I think given the number of 5+ costers you have in the pack right now, I could see it. I could see it being a good one.
Yeah,
potentially. You've got 5 right now. I don't know. I think you probably cut a couple of those. I think you cut the Charmed Clothier.
Yeah, that's all I'm cutting is the Charmed.
So you still got 4,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough choice, but I mean, the Prism, I think, considering you're going to potentially be, or that you are going to be splashing for at least 2 colors here, that the Prism's helpful.
Exactly. That was my thought. Secure the color protection. Next pick, I just decide I haven't played a Scream Puff yet in this set. I'd like to maybe, so I picked that up. But that's basically because there's nothing else that I really want. There is a Ginger Brute. Again, I've just been leaning away from that guy. Spider Food, it's okay.
Yeah.
Then pick 9, I get a Return from the Wild, so great. Helps ramp Hamlet Glutton and helps fix.
Yep. I think that's the right there.
Pick 10, we get a Crystal Grotto, so sure. I've heard some talk about Bestial Bloodline being actually pretty interesting in this set because, 2 mana for a +2/+2 that you can. Yes, the bad thing about enchantment auras are they can be killed with your creature. You get 2 for 1, but you can bring it back, and I guess people are bringing it back often enough to make it decent. I'm still skeptical because it's pretty mana.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to spend 5 months
exactly
on that to bring back a +2/+2 enchantment. That just seems like I've got better things to spend my mana on, hopefully. And if I don't, then I'm probably either already winning or are far enough behind that that's not going to do me much.
That's my opinion too. There are some good players out there mentioning like they aren't in love with it either. But I think Beers SC is a player on that is fairly well known and not a streamer, but in the Lord's Limited Discord and is pretty high ranked on the leaderboard at 17 Lands. I guess he's mentioned he's played it and liked it. It doesn't mean he's in love with it, but he might consider pick 10ing it here.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, pick 10. Yeah.
Probably still not over Crystal Grotto because, especially with all my splashes. But
I don't love. I'll be honest. I don't love Crystal Grotto because you're basically having to pay an extra mana for the things you want to cast in the other color. Yeah. But I can understand it, right? And the scry helps, right? It helps set up future plays. So it's I don't hate it, but I don't love it.
Fair enough. I feel like we're having another Lords Limited Ethan Ben discussion almost because Ethan was on the I loved Crystal Grotto back when it was, I think it was the original Throne of Eldraine, or maybe it was Dominaria United. This is a reprint. And he loved it then, and Ben's like, I don't remember liking this card. But Ben did come around in this set, so I would recommend trying to play some more Crystal Grottos.
I might. I'm interested to try and do some of this splashing now. So.
Yeah. And then I just no pick. I get a pick 12 Crystal Grotto.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see that an Obira is still in the pack.
Oh yeah.
That maybe speaks to nobody wanting to play blue-black. But it's interesting, right? Like, I mean, it's not a bad card. It's a 2/2 flying flash for 2. It's just in and of itself, that's a good card. So that's interesting to see that that's made it all the way around.
Yeah, it definitely means people were not playing blue black.
Well, seeing all this blue, I don't think anybody in your pod was playing blue. Like, every pack has... This pack has 3 blue.
Yeah. Yeah, blue black is... I have yet to play blue black. Yeah. I faced it, and it can be kind of annoying. I still don't think it's a great archetype.
I don't think it is either. It was the first one I played, and I went 3-3 with it, so
Yeah.
I wasn't too happy. But, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I got 2 Ovirus. And I think that's part of the reason, like, I ended up playing it, was because I was like, oh, these is a pretty good card. And if I can get a lot of parries, that might be pretty good.
So yeah, we round out with another Crystal Grotto and a couple other cards.
Yeah, a lot of Bestial Bloodlines going.
Yes, there was, which, like we said, makes sense. But all right, so yeah, I'm clicking on now the what the deck was, and like we said in a lot of other episodes, I've been filling them up with 2 drops, 3 drops, and then bombs that are higher, and then my big creatures are usually either Hamlet Glutton or a adventure big creature like Gingerbread Hunter, for example. And yeah, it played out well.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, because I tend to try and get a fair number, or maybe not a fair number, but if I see it, I consider it, of 1-drops, right? Because, like Ginger Brute, things like that. But in this case, right, you played 0 1-drops, although you really only had a Commune with Nature, I think, that would have really fit in the deck. Based on... Oh, no, that's not true. The rest are not 1-drops, right? They're 1-cost cards, Leaping Ambush and Royal Treatment. But you obviously didn't prioritize 1-drops, right? So that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't love 1-drops in this deck. I will say, 1-drops give you the advantage of making sure you can use all your mana in one turn a lot of times. Like, turn 3, you might... Well, I don't know. Maybe let's say turn 4. Maybe you want to be able to play, like, a 3-drop and a 1-drop, right? Like, if you have the 1-drop. So, a card that I actually really like in this kind of deck that I did not pick up, Cheeky House Mouse, the 2/1 for 1 white, that also has the adventure of, like, make up something +1/+1 and not be able to be blocked by creatures of power 3 or more. I like that card a lot. If I got that, I'd put it in. And there are decks where I prioritize ones more, like the Rats deck. Harried Spearguard is much better than I thought it was in grading. So I play those in my Rats deck. Like, I'm happy to pick up basically as many as I can. But this deck is a get things down that can threaten, but your goal is to make it into the later game, to mid to late, to cast Hamlet Gluttons and run your opponent over. So in decks like that, I don't prioritize 1-drops.
No, that's fair. Yeah, and I'm just thinking about it because I know when you and I have talked before, you tend to play faster. You tend to play more aggressive, right? And I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's only 5 2-drop creatures too, right? So this is a relatively slow deck, right? But that's okay, I think, for this set, because this is a slower set.
Exactly.
As we discussed prior to it.
Yeah, I've been... While my heart lies in aggro, I'm scared of aggro in this deck because I have less control, I feel, when I play aggro. Because if I get disrupted in any way by my opponent, or if my opponent gets enough food where I can't continue the pressure, I feel like it's easier to win in mid-range and up in this format.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
Now the stats don't necessarily reflect that, right? Like white red and black red, I think, are two of the highest performing color pairs. I do think it's under black green. I think that's the best. But I I still am a little skeptical. I think the format's developing, and I think once people figure out how to disrupt some of those color pairs, they can be disrupted. The white reds and the black reds.
Sure. Yeah. Although there are no board wipes, right? So that's interesting in this set. Is there are really no board wipes to speak of. So that is an interesting. It's very hard to like stop them completely, but like if you can basically get stabilize yourself to the point where they can't attack into you anymore, or something like that, you've won the game, right? Because they're going to run out of steam, and you're going to be sitting there probably with bigger creatures.
Shrouded Shepherd, the adventure that gives -1/-1 to all your opponent's creatures,
Yes.
acts as
Yes.
a pretty decent board wipe.
Yeah.
At least for black-red. Now, again, I haven't played red-white or played against it yet, which is surprising to me. So you have much more experience there. I feel like that doesn't impact red-white too much, that card, because you're bigger.
Because they're all usually 2/2s or 3/3s in that range.
So I'd be interested in playing some red-white. To get a feel for it.
Yeah. I do think one of the things that I think is interesting about red-white is that I think it uses some of the rat cards more effectively than the Rats deck does, or at least as effectively as the Rats deck. Like Ratcatcher Trainee is great in the celebration format because you get 2 rats for the adventure, right? And so just being able to do that triggers your celebration, and then you can also play the Ratcatcher Trainee later on to do it, later on for not a lot of mana. So it's interesting because I think some of the cards that Black-Red really wants are actually pretty good in the celebration mechanic as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm pulling up some decks right now that are red-white just to kind of see what they're doing, and they're like a couple copies of Ratcatcher Trainee. So yeah, I'll send this over Discord to you just so you can see. But at least the first one had a couple copies of Ratcatcher Trainee. Second one doesn't, but it looks like it might have some. It has some bombs. So the first deck is probably more archetype-like. The second deck has Virtual Loyalty, which is just a great card. Like, I don't know if you read that one. Like, 2 mana, 2/2 Vigilance on the adventure side, and then 5 mana at beginning of your end step. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Untap those creatures. Yeah. And then he has like some 4/6 flying haste guy as well. Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, this one's kind of interesting. A little more of a.
And this 7/1 green-white has nothing over 3 costs.
Send that along.
The first one you sent me, it has nothing over 3 costs, and he still runs 17 lands, which I do not understand. My green-white has nothing over a 4 cost, and I'm running 15 lands.
Right, you mean red-white.
Sorry, red-white. The first red-white you sent me. Yeah. My red-white has nothing over a 4 cost, and I'm running 15 lands. This guy's running 17 and has nothing over a 3 cost. That I don't understand.
A few things going on here, though. So Gingerbrute, you want to be able to activate a good amount while casting other things. So you want to make sure you hit your land drops.
Sure.
Similar with... So Ratcatcher Trainee may also kind of be a hidden 5-mana card in a way. I don't know. That's just a theory of mine. Because I'd rather probably play out my 2s and my 3s and hold up Ratcatcher till I have 5. It's kind of the point. And then they have Godric, which is a fire-breathing thing, so you can pump that as well, so you kind of want some lands for that. I'm with you that I would have probably cut this down to 16 lands. I've considered I'll play 15 in a small enough deck.
Yeah,
And
that's my red white right now. Is I'm currently playing 15, but again, I don't have anything that costs more than 4 in the entire deck, and I don't have a lot of those. It's mostly 2 cost.
yeah.
So I think it's worked so far. I haven't been mono screwed one game, but it is obviously a risk, right?
Yeah.
I also did get, to be fair, the red white dual land. So I have one of those in there as a land, so it makes it a little easier and a little bit more flexible.
To get your colors that you need when you need them.
Yeah, to get both colors, yeah. So
Makes sense. Yeah, you really want to try to be able to get, especially if you're fast decks, like 8 of each color in somehow.
yeah. And that's basically what I have right
Yeah.
now.
Thanks again for joining along. Hope you learned a little bit about how to be splashing in Wilds of Eldraine. Reach out on any comments if you have questions. We're happy to respond to those. And stay tuned as the format evolves. We will keep looking at the Candy Grapple versus Hopeless Nightmare ratings to see the win rate and how the bet is going along. And we'll try to...
What happens if they tie, Jeremy? What happens if they're at the exact same game in hand win rate?
We'll have to buy a pack for each other and open up both.
That's fair.
But
we
yeah,
both lose and both win.
Exactly. So stay tuned. We'll do some deep dives into other archetypes in our next upcoming episodes. Thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.
See you next time.